Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the October 30th Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I will take a motion to adopt the agenda.
Adopt the agenda.
Support Van Sickle.
Motion from Commissioner Romano, support from Commissioner Lucido. Seeing no comments or changes, commissioners, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next is item 4, approval of the minutes. I will take a motion to approve the minutes dated October 29th, 2025.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Goyke, support from Commissioner Bueno. Any comments or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next is public participation. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on any item on today's agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes is welcome to the podium. Anybody for public participation? Okay, seeing nobody jumping up, we will close public participation. There is one more before the end of the meeting. And we will move on to budget reviews. Item 6, I will take a motion to receive and file budget reviews for Parks and Rec, Planning and Economic Development, Department of
Motion
Roads,
receive and file.
Trails, and Public Works. Motion from Commissioner Grott, support from Commissioner Lucido. First, we have Parks and Rec up. Who's gonna, is there anybody? Vicky's gonna, sorry, Vicky, I'm moving kind of quick already. Commissioners, we are on page E2. Vicky, go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, once again. In front of you, you have the Parks and Rec fund, pretty stable fund, at least for this year and last year. Not really any fundamental changes to the plan. We did up cell phones, add cell phone within the budget. You'll see that as a highlight and increase within the budget under supplies and services, I believe within that category. I believe the other day we did talk about as well the capital plan item for the building over at Freedom Hill as well, but pretty much a stable budget. We did work with Jeff Wheeler, who is the employee over at Parks and Rec, as well as myself and JP. And I will take any questions if you have any.
Thanks, Vicky. Just for the sake of some of our newer commissioners, the revenues, where do those come from for this budget?
It is from the parking fees for Freedom Hill that we take in for the event.
Thanks, Vicky. Any other commissioners with questions? Okay. All set for now.
Great,
Thanks,
thank
Vicky.
you.
Next, we will move on to the next Vicky, Planning and Economic Development. We will start on page C48. Vicky, go ahead when you're ready.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to present our 2026 budget for Planning and Economic Development. Would like to give you a brief overview. I know we've got some new commissioners on the board. Just a brief overview, a year in review of some of the activities that took place in 2025. You'll see a lot of that activity does drive into our strategy leading into the new incoming year. Our mission, is looking at how do we grow, retain, and attract economic investments in Macomb County. This has actually expanded beyond just looking at business attraction and business retention, but looking at it from the talent component. You'll see a lot of our activities are tying more into that strategy of how do we keep people here in Macomb County, especially as they are aging, or looking at it from the population that is graduating high school and then going off to college, and how do we bring them back here to Macomb where the jobs are at. We do this through 5 different program areas, and so I'll break it into each of the 5 areas, some key milestones that happen within the different work groups. That includes community planning, economic development, mapping and data services, marketing communications, and then parks and natural resources. At a glance, just to let you know where we are at as a county, despite the uncertainty with tariffs, some shifts that we're seeing in the marketplace, Macomb County is actually doing really strong as far as our GDP. This is a measure of all the products and services that we produce as a county. This really lends to our targeted industries and our strategy behind that. For us, we've got a really strong suit with automotive manufacturing and mobility. That remains very strong. About 12 billion of that GDP is in that space. But we've got some other areas that we're going to be focusing on, kind of doubling down on the work and activity happening within aerospace and defense, automation and robotics, distribution and logistics, and then food and ag. So if I can kind of key in on one of our mapping services, mapping and data services, the presentation that I actually have in front of you today really reflects some of the work that comes out of that work group. It goes beyond just our geospatial assets here in Macomb County, but how did the data and trends really reflect on our strategy? We do have some key projects coming up in 2026. When we look at the LiDAR as well as some of the aerial photography, so you'll see that line item come up in our contractual services other. But just important to note, we do take on a lot of the requests from other departments and other agencies. Some of it is internal and external. There's actually a map on here. It's a 2025 precinct map. Our team works really closely, especially when you look at the elections and how those districts are divided. That is actually a key component of what we do. We know we're entering into a 2026 election year, so we're probably going to anticipate a lot more activity happening in that space. For community development, one of our big undertakings over the past couple of years has been merging the community development block grant program into our normal practices within community development. That is taking our 27 different cities, villages, townships, working with them side by side as they go over their master plan rewrites. But one of the big highlights from last year really was a project in East Point, looking at the Kelly Courts apartments. You will find that now that we look at all the opportunities that we've got with CDBG and home, there's going to be some line items in the budget on how we actually invest as a county, ensuring that we're maximizing those dollars coming into our county and that there's that local impact at the community level. Our team also works in other programs, brownfield redevelopment. That was actually one of our strategies going into last year. Knowing that, we only have the land that we've got in Macomb County, a lot of it is already built out, that brownfield program is going to be pretty integral, getting that property back into the usable tax base, but may require some type of environmental or cleanup involved with that. And then just some other key projects, looking at the Selfridge Runway project. I'll tie into what's happening with Selfridge and the impact that the county has in that project, as well as looking at we're looking at bringing on a fellow next year. This actually has to do with some of the programming and projects that have happened up in Romeo with the Ford Romeo engine site with that closure, being able to bring in some additional help to look at how do we help that community become a redevelopment ready community. And then we've got our trail implementation, materials management, and then as well as we are a key partner in the housing needs assessment. From the economic development front, this is where, it's always a little bit easier to measure impact. We do measure investments in this particular program area. What are the types of businesses that are coming in? How much are they investing in the county, whether that's real property or machinery or equipment? What type of jobs are they creating, and ensuring that they are falling within those categories of our targeted industries and high-paying jobs. As you can see on this slide, we do have quite a few of the companies that we've worked with this year, despite the slowdown that we saw. We called it kind of that uncertainty or pause, especially in the beginning of 2025. But we know we've got quite a few projects in the pipeline, and it's really nice to see it's a diverse mix of businesses, not just in automotive. But a total of 44 projects that we have captured this year, with over 1,300 jobs either retained or created. And then with this particular slide, we actually like to bring it down into like, what do these projects mean? You know, half of our time is spent on the business retention side, looking at businesses that are here. But then there is this other component on how we market ourselves outside of Macomb County, nationally and internationally, and attract those businesses here in Macomb. We had a total of 13 projects that came through as part of that business attraction site selection process. And what does that mean for us when we look at how many jobs did it create? We submitted a total of 40 proposals, so we didn't win every single one of them, but we have a pretty good record with the 13 that came here. And then ultimately, what does that bring into the county as far as our coffers with the tax base? What does it do at the community level as well as for the state of Michigan? Go back here. We actually also hosted, either we co-hosted or we hosted primarily a lot of events here in Macomb County. Just kind of listed a few of those. I know one of the requests that you guys have as part of your supplemental is where do we plan on going? Where do we plan on traveling? I just wanted to highlight some of the activities in the space. Some of them have actually did create wins for us. For example, twice this year we've been to Toronto. We did have a company that did move into Macomb County that is a Toronto-based company. So we know that there is some action behind getting our people out there, whether it's traveling on behalf of the county or us traveling directly. And then I do want to spend a minute to talk about what is coming down the pipeline for Macomb County. I know all of you guys are very familiar with the big win we heard this year with F-15s coming to Macomb County, to Selfridge Air National Guard Base. There's a lot happening behind the scenes. We know we've got a very tight deadline with the retirement of the A-10s coming in, and then we're bringing a refueling mission with the KC-46, and then the brand new F-15s coming in. There's going to be some infrastructure improvements that need to take place before those planes can get here. So that in itself is close to $1 billion worth of investment, whether it's on base or off the base, looking at that extension of the runway. But our two primary key partners in this, with Detroit Arsenal down in Warren, looking at the work that's happening there with ground vehicle technology, some of the technology shifts they're seeing will have a major impact on our targeted industry of defense and aerospace. And then looking at opportunities with Selfridge, whether it is some of those construction jobs that might come in as far as the infrastructure improvements. And then also when you build out these planes, the F-15s have not been built out. Was fortunate enough to go to St. Louis and see where those planes will be built. But looking at the supply chain component of it, we know we've got a strong base here in Macomb County. A lot of them are already providing parts and services to Boeing or the Air Force directly, but we want to double down on that and ensure that we continue to grow that supply chain. And then one of the other areas that we focused on with Land and Air is actually kind of growing that footprint and how do we market our region as being a primary defense ecosystem or hub. We partnered with Oakland County, Wayne County, City of Detroit, our partner at Detroit Regional Partnership, and created a coalition called the Detroit Regional Defense Coalition. This provides us the opportunity to really promote our assets here. We know that the ecosystem, the numbers are here in Macomb County, but when you're traveling abroad or traveling nationally, to be able to put us on a map is going to be a pretty big deal. I talked a little bit about the U.S. Army, but for us, we've got to start looking at foreign military sales, having a foreign presence, working with some of our DoD or NATO-friendly countries to continue seeing those DoD dollars pour into here, into the United States and back into Michigan. And then marketing, you know, ultimately when we talk about how do we attract businesses, how do we get even our population growth to continue to be on that uptick, it's important that we're marketing Macomb County as a great place to live, work, and play. And there's quite a few activities that marketing and communications teams worked on throughout the year. You can see some of the top hit websites. That is very important that we've got that social and digital presence, and we're seeing that the impacts and impressions come from that. That team also does help us with some of our traditional printed pieces as well as our digital pieces. There are publications, whether it's the Momentum magazine, as well as some quarterly newsletters that go out there that really represent what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And then one of the key areas, and you're going to see this really come on strong into our strategy in 2026, this is fueling the talent pipeline. This is a program that we've been running and operating within our department, looking at how are we hitting our K through 12, that student population, letting them know that the jobs are here within Macomb County. It's been a heavy lift, but we want to make sure that we actually double down on this. When we look at the numbers, we call it the silver tsunami, individuals that are going to be retiring within the next 5 years. It's about 100,000 person difference between the millennials that are in the workforce. So not only do we need to double down and have the conversations with our current students that they need to stay here, maybe they go off to college, but maybe come back, but also look at it from a talent attraction. One of the efforts we worked on this year, we brought in students from Kettering. Some were very familiar with Macomb County and others were not. Really showcasing assets along the defense corridor, meeting with our defense companies, letting them know that once they graduate or perhaps they're going through their cohort or internship, that job is waiting for them here. And it's really strategic and forward thinking on our part, and we want to continue to do those type of activities. Then we also have our partnership with, right now we're the convening organization for Romeo, as well as Centerline, with their K through 12, looking at their programming and their pathways and connecting our businesses directly to opportunities to be working alongside teachers in those districts. Our goal is to expand this beyond those two, making sure that we've got the bandwidth to do that as well. And then Parks and Natural Resources. A big deal for us this year was the celebration of our 10-year of greening Macomb. You know, they always say like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Well, it was 10 years ago for us. And so we are seeing the fruits of that labor. It was kind of neat to be able to celebrate with our Macomb partners, look at some of the tree plantings that took place 10 years ago and the impact that they're consistently having here in Macomb County. And the other component to this is our blue economy, focusing on Lake St. Clair, the assets that we've got there. We've got BHAGs in our office, Big Hairy Audacious Goals. Would love to be able to see some type of hotel, waterfront type of environment within our Lake St. Clair shoreline. And so we've got the team actively looking at and pursuing that as well. Big deal for us as well was the Bassmaster Elite. When you look at economic impact, we have a phenomenal tool back in the office where we're able to determine what did that look like for that weekend when we had those anglers from across the country, across the globe. I know one of the anglers was from Japan. You know, you always wonder maybe perhaps he'll make Macomb his home because of this. But it does have an economic impact. It brings in those visitors, looking at it from the tourism dollars, as well as the dollars that they're spending locally. And then we have a nationwide coverage on this. And so we're really putting Macomb County on the map with hosting events such as this. Grants, I've come to you several times throughout the year in 2025. Just give you a quick snapshot of some of the grants that we were able to work with some of our partners at the state and federal level. And then I want to spend some time talking about where do we go from here? What does the 2026 strategic budget look like? We have requested on two of our line items, I think we're looking at an increase in some of the dollars that go towards our cell phone bill, as well as our vehicle maintenance. But the largest increase that you will see is in this budget. We call it the CS Other. This is where our unique programming comes into play. Kind of highlighted for you here. A lot of this, if you were to do a side-by-side and compare it to last year, we're looking at similar dollar amounts, but I want to highlight some of the areas where you're seeing even a much larger uptick. The first one, looking at it from our A&D, this is our aerospace and defense targeted industry, requesting some additional funds here, knowing with all the activities that are happening with Selfridge, anticipating an uptick in activities for this. So that is up to $60,000 from last year. The other one is the solid waste materials management consulting. So we put this place marker in last year, not knowing what we would receive from the state of Michigan. We did receive funding from the state of Michigan in the amount of $360,000. However, that does not fund activities that fall under our solid waste planning. And so we still want to put this place marker in here. We may not use it. However, we would rather have assurances that if we've got to go into that solid waste planning committee, that we've got the funds to do so, and then use the materials management money or funding for that programming as allotted by the state of Michigan. The other areas is this community planning project, CDBG Home. And so one of the I don't want to say it was part of the negotiations of bringing CDBG back into planning and economic development, was that we start looking at some transformational projects, projects that really truly move a needle for our communities. There is the home program, in which in order for us to draw down committed dollars, right now there's about 4 million that's committed under home, we've got to bring together a 25% match. And so the request for this year is 100,000. What that allows for is us to look at a project in the scope of 400,000 in order for us to actually make that project come to a reality. We don't know what the project looks like. We've got to write out those parameters. However, we're going to need that match money if we really want to be serious about drawing down those federal dollars that are allocated to us. And then other than that, we did bump up that fueling the talent pipeline just a nudge from last year, but nothing too significant. And with that, I know I've talked a lot, but you guys have questions for me, and I'm willing and able to take those on.
Vicki, thank you. Before I get to questions, I just want to commend you and your team on your supplemental worksheet. That's probably the most thorough one we've ever had from your department and probably most departments. So I want to thank you for the detail and time you guys put into that. Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. There could be so many questions. You cover so much. But my question is, what do you do in the schools? You said you partner with the schools. What do you actually do?
We do. So actually this morning, we were at Centerline High School. They had their annual breakfast. We are what's called the convening organization. So we work with Centerline. They've got a whole K through 12 pathway where every student that goes through Centerline learns about career and job opportunities. As the convening organization, we bring businesses to the room. We do a lot with making sure they have experiences with job shadows. Sometimes it's an externship where we bring a teacher and they spend their summer at a business so they can bring that back to the classroom. Speaking engagements, volunteering, internships, co-ops. And then the big thing for us every year is we expanded the nationwide manufacturing day into a manufacturing week. And we get 2,000 students on buses visiting Macomb County businesses all week long.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Howard.
Thank you. The Green School program is great. We were able to go on a field trip and took a lot of kids to the Lego thing because we had the tickets from the Detroit Zoo. So my daughter's school thought I was a hero because they got to go see the Lego exhibit, except it was the county that took care of it. I just had a couple questions. Some of them is based off of your supplemental sheet. Can you just give an example of how you talk about you partner with all 27 municipalities? Can you just give an example of how you guys have partnered with Warren in the last year?
Sure. Actually, on November 6th, we're going to be partnering with 17 of our municipalities. We're hosting what's called a real estate forum, where we've invited the communities to talk about what are the big projects that are happening. It's very exciting times in Macomb County because we haven't had a new downtown being built in over 100 plus years. And so to have communities say, we're going to set land aside for a town center, or Lakeside Mall will go through a major redevelopment, we know that we've got to be able to bring partners in order for these projects to come to fruition. And so that's just one example. Once a quarter, we do host Macomb Partners. That is a meeting that we host for about an hour and a half over a lunch. Invite all of our community partners, guest speakers, and typically the topic is very timely to things that are happening either at the state level or at our level.
Thank you. You mentioned potentially bringing on a fellow. Is that a paid position?
Yeah, so this is, we actually had a fellow this year that worked with us through a very similar program. The county portion of that is $10,000. So ultimately we get a full-time staff. and, in return, we pay the 10,000. With this fellow, we would have him focusing on the village of Romeo, just because of the sheer, I won't call it devastation, when they lost their major manufacturer up there. That definitely still has had resounding negative impact. And in fact, now we're seeing it with their revenue, as they go in front of their boards with budgets. It's unfortunate, but the more that we can provide some assistance and help Romeo through that transition, the better.
Thank you. Sorry, my screen kind of froze up for a second. I was just making sure, is that $10,000 in the budget?
It is. So
Okay.
you would find it in here
Okay.
under community development projects.
And then my other question is, you mentioned about the marketing that you guys do. I just out of curiosity, what's the marketing budget?
So we've got several different buckets where that marketing budget falls into. There's advertising, there's marketing. We also do sponsorship. So if we're sponsoring an event, or we've got the Macomb County ads running in, whether it's a digital print or it could be digital or physical paper copy, it would fall within that. And so different buckets within our budget.
Right. So what's the dollar amount though?
I would have to go back and add up those different buckets. It's not one singular item.
Right.
For our advertising budget, actually, I do have that number, so I can give you what that number is.
Sure.
For marketing and promotion, that's 92.5. Advertising is 75.
Okay, thank you. Again, I just want to echo, I love the Green Schools program. I think it's great. My daughter, I have 2 kids that are a part of the program, or like a part of Centerline Schools, and they love it. It's really beneficial. And I enjoyed the Macomb Business Awards, because one of the business that's won an award is right down the street from me. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Just last comment, because I know you mentioned a lot of schools that you partner with. Lawrence Tech is really doing a great job at, I know several students there that are going through programs to learn how to build drones and do a lot of, so it might be an opportunity for us to steal some future Macomb County residents.
And to that note, my son goes to Lawrence Tech, so
Oh,
I would
great.
love to see him land a job here in Macomb County. So it's personal goal of my own.
Awesome. That's it. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Hoff.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Mick. You had mentioned on your breakdown summary a solid waste material management consultant. That's a placeholder in case you would need one. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We do have a solid waste committee,
Yes.
right?
Yep. And we've stood up the Materials Management Committee, and then we've got the Solid Waste Committee. The Materials Management Committee is the one that is funded. We did receive funding through the state of Michigan, so we're able to get reimbursed for services under that. We do not have a pot of money for anything solid waste related. And if it so happens to come up, we've got to make sure we've got some type of place marker for those dollars to be spent out of.
And last question, you brought it up earlier in your presentation about it being a political year. I was just reading editorial this morning about certain candidates, if they were elected governor, would immediately eliminate MEDC. How would that impact you?
So we definitely felt that going into their budget season. What does that mean for the type of projects that we bring into Macomb County? It would have a major impact. If you look at some of the grants that we've received, they're directly coming to us through the MEDC, our defense grant, our Industry 4.0 grant. These are programs where, the state has helped support to offset some of our costs to implement these programs. Directly, when we talk about business attraction and we're talking to a company that's competing with another state, it becomes really difficult not to have something that you can bring to the table for them to choose Michigan and then for them to choose Macomb County.
Thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Chair Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Vicki. So a couple questions. First one is the reimbursements for $100,000. Just refresh my memory what that's for. It's on the revenue side. Journal-only revenue.
That is one of our GIS technicians, Richard Owens. You know, he does spend the majority of his time with working at applications over at Comtech and Dispatch. And so it is an agreement that we've had, probably going at least 7 some years, where he is kind of a borrowed employee, and then they reimburse us for his time.
Got it. On the capital side, looks like you got a few IT items. Can you talk about Salesforce and what you're looking to do with that?
Sure. Salesforce is our customer relations management system. This is where we track all of the activities when we're working with our businesses. We know that there are modules within the system. Last year, we spent a lot of time with cleanup, and that just had to do with massive data dumps that we did during the pandemic with 4,000 new businesses coming into Macomb County, making sure we're capturing contact information, economic impact, or how we help them. We really want to enhance how we're using Salesforce more on the marketing side of that. And it really is a retention tool. So if we're not reaching out to our businesses and there are changes with leadership, something comes up and we don't know how to contact that new leader, Salesforce will help us with that. As well as when we invite our businesses to some of the events, whether it's an Industry 4.0 event, or maybe perhaps we made a direct connection for Michigan Works Services. We want to be able to track those as well. And so our Salesforce helps us with that. And so looking at some enhancements.
Okay, great. Thanks for the detailed report.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Chair. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Vicki. Good to see you.
You too.
One of your slides had something that caught my eye, revolving loan fund grant. I don't usually hear the word loan and grant in the same title.
All right, so I'm going to actually pull in Amanda Minato. She's the one who actually runs this program because it is a loan and a grant, but I'll have her differentiate from that.
Yes, so this was a $1 million grant from the EPA that we received for brownfield remediation. So the part of it that's revolving is basically Macomb County received $1 million, and then we can loan that money out to a developer to do a brownfield project in their community to clean up the site. And then over the course of an agreed upon loan term, they pay us back with interest. And then we revolve those dollars and continue to loan them out over the course of ideally 30 years or so, or in perpetuity, to continue to do cleanup projects. So it's a grant in the terms that we get to keep the money, but we loan it out to a developer who then uses it to clean it up and then pays us back with a low interest loan. So one of the ones that we've done in the past was Jimmy John's Field. We loaned them an amount of money, and then it was a deferred loan for 5 years that allowed them to get the business started, and then they paid us back with low interest, and then we can take that interest and use it for assessments, other cleanups, different things like that. So we received $1 million from the EPA 5-6 years ago, and then got a supplemental one this year that we are looking for projects for, but that's how we would use that money.
So that added on to the fund that you had from before?
Yes.
Just curious, is that being utilized pretty much?
So we haven't revolved any of the dollars yet because we're waiting for the full payback. And then once it gets fully paid back, we don't have as many restrictions from the EPA as to like what we need to spend it on and following certain like Davis-Bacon type requirements and things like that. So right now we're still receiving the payments and interest, and it's sitting in an account. And as we close out that payback, then we'll revolve it for new projects right now.
So you have to wait until the company or whoever you loaned it to fully pay back the whole loan before you can really use
No,
it?
actually, we have to spend out the full $1 million, which we didn't with the Jimmy John's. I believe it was 500, and so we still have another, and then we granted 250, and then we have another 250 to spend, and then once we loan that out, then we could start spending it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it just, the EPA has a set of restrictions that you have to follow before you fully can, you have to loan it all out first, so if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Like I said, those two words didn't really.
I know, it's loan and grant, you're like,
Yeah,
yes,
it
so
didn't really
grant for
match
us,
with me.
loan for the developer.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Another point you made is there was $5 million spent that created 100 jobs. That's $50,000 a job. Is there any kind of well, I would say industry, but we're not an industry, we're a government. Is there any kind of governmental statistics that says, that lists how much dollars per job is a success and how much? I mean, some of the state dollars, I mean, they've spent millions and gotten very little back from it. Now, I was just wondering, is there any kind of score sheet that says where $50,000 a job is that a good amount or a bad, excessive amount?
Yeah, to get to your question, we don't have like a score sheet. However, when we are working with businesses and looking at their expansion or their attraction, we do want to see, especially those higher paying, higher wage jobs. I know from the state of Michigan, when they are reviewing projects and the information goes into a portal, they're looking for something very similar. We also do work closely with our partners at Macomb Community College as well as Michigan Works, looking at going pro, where, $23 is really where we want to see 23 and higher in order for them to be eligible to pull down additional, whether it's reimbursements or incentives for training.
Okay, thank you. And no doubt you've heard of SEMCA on Van Dyke and Sterling Heights. Are you doing anything with them?
I was just out there on last Friday, a beautiful facility. When you look at the type of individuals they have running through their program, this is your 18 plus community, 18 and up. They do require a GED, but the types of jobs that they're training for, especially in skilled trades, are in such high demand right now. I love their success. They went from 100 students to 800 students, and I think that really speaks to what they're able to do, especially to meet the demand of the skilled trades component.
For far too long, we've sort of ignored the trades, and we need to really bolster that up. We're feeling the brunt of not enough young people going into the trades. So I'm glad to see that you're working with them.
Absolutely, and then that's also one of the connections we made back to Centerline. So Centerline Public Schools does not have a SHOT program, where maybe perhaps they could have that partnership with SEMCA to provide that.
Okay, good. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vicky, I've got a couple questions. First one's pertaining to the aerial photography program. You have $90,000 set aside in the contract services piece, but also in the capital plan, there's the storage for the 2 terabytes for $22,000. Those are separate. So the 90's over here, they're not being blended together.
Correct. So
At all,
it is
right?
separate and distinct. One is for the storage, the terabytes, that is more of an IT-based project. And then what you see in front of you with our LiDAR is the actual cost to perform the flight.
Okay. Thank you. And then the next one, on your supplemental sheet, you mentioned when it comes to office space, the need for an additional small conference room. But Vicky, I don't see that on the master capital plan. Is that something that should be included, or am I just not seeing it on here?
No, we are able to actually look at getting that in this year versus us asking for next year to have it done.
Okay. Do you have an idea of cost?
Oh, it's, I think we just got the quote in right around 17,000.
Okay. Can you send that person to Prosecutor Lucido's office when you're done? I'm kidding. With that, I think that's all for that round of questions. Vicky, we'll go on to pages D27 and 28, the CDBG pages. Any highlights there you want to touch on?
We're still looking at keeping, the same amount of staff running that program. This is one where if we do get that 100,000 for that match, we anticipate maybe some bigger projects coming through. We do have some great things happening with Oakwood and East Point and some of the housing development there, but no major changes.
Thank you, Vicky. Commissioners, any questions on those 2 pages? Okay, I don't see any. You're all set. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you very much.
Next, Commissioners, we will move on to the Department of Roads. Those are going to be pages D42, 43, and 44. Scott is here to present.
Actually, you're stuck with me first.
That's fine. Whoever wants to present.
All right.
None of you look like Brian, so. Go ahead
Hopefully
whenever
that's a
you're
good
ready.
thing. Hi, I'm Melissa Williams. I'm the
Yes.
Finance Director for the Department of Roads. This is my third year preparing this budget. My first year was confusing for me, hopefully not so much for you. And then the second year, being the 2025, we moved from being a September 30th year end to a December 31st year end to coincide with the county's year end, hopefully to help with audits and budgets and timing of everything. That being said, we went from a 15-month budget to a 12-month budget, which I hope that answers most of our questions here today when we see our variances between 2025 to 2026. That being said, there's a few things I'd like to point out. First of all, I do want to say I brought today with me Scott Wanigant, who is our engineering director. And I know so many of your questions will be project related, and he is definitely the expert. So we'll just work together and tag team here, however you want us to answer questions. I hope that my piece is easy enough that for us to work our way through quickly, because his is much more interesting. First of all, like I said, we have a 12-month budget that we're working with here for 2026 as opposed to a 15-month. For 2025, that was significant in that we had one construction season with 15 months worth of MTF revenue. So we were able to do maybe a little bit more with that construction budget as we could for 2026. But even with that, though, we've been able to bolster a lot of our overlay programs and some of the other programs that Scott will touch on. Another thing that has changed definitely since 2024 is our OPEB, our retiree healthcare funding, and our pension are both fully funded. In fact, our OPEB is currently, I just got my actuarial from December 2024 yesterday, and it's still 160% funded. So we have moved from contributing, we had no unfunded, so we weren't contributing for any retirees. And we also are paying our retiree healthcare out of that trust now. So, and in addition to that, it's so overfunded that I am not required to even have any funding for current employees. So that opens up about $6 million in our budget. So that has been really helpful and is a big reason why we were able to add 8 positions. Those 8 positions, 8 positions, just want to make sure I got it right. We have one civil engineer 3. A civil engineer 3 is an engineer with a PE license, a professional license. We have, then we have the other 7 are all engineering aides or our inspectors. There are 2 engineering aid 1s and 5 engineering aid 2s, and that's between Scott's department in engineering and traffic engineering, and 1 in permits. One thing that's different as well on your budget, normally when we come to our presentation here, I'm doing like a forecast, or I'm trying to do a carry forward I would have done a carry forward from 2025 into 2026. I did not do that this year. In my experience, I have always brought a carry forward once my fiscal year has ended. I know where my projects are at, and then I bring that number into the next year. What I like in the presentation of the budget is that ending $124 million fund balance, that is our fund balance. That is our projected fund balance. Where before, when I had that carry forward, when I hadn't really actualed out the previous year, it really underestimated or under forecasted our fund balance. So let's see, what else did I want to share with you? We had a few capital projects in 2026. We had the big renovation. We're finishing up the renovation at our facility on Groesbeck this year.
And then in addition, most of this Shelby salt facility funding was already there. We had to add $1 million just because prices came in so high. That's the only significant item on our capital projects, but we're anxiously awaiting the feedback from the capital project assessment. So we'll be working with those recommendations going forward. The rest that's on there is just some little fixes here and there. Let's see, what else did I want to tell you about? The only other big thing that I have to discuss is, so many of you heard that this budget does not reflect the additional $30 million that just passed the state. And so we're still getting information as to how that revenue will come in. In fact, the state's budget has started October 1st. And the gas tax portion of that new funding won't go into effect until January. And as far as the neighborhood road fund part of the funding, the part that is the wholesale pot tax and the corporate income tax, we don't really know yet how that's all going to start to trickle in. I'm confident in MDOT's estimates. However, they did reduce the general fund transfer of $600 million, and that has started in October. So that is the last 3 months of our fiscal year this year. So we'll see a reduction there. I think that we've been conservative enough with this budget that it won't negatively impact us. So with that, I'm going to open it. Well, would you like me to? I'll have Scott do a little presentation on the roads, and then as you have questions, if you need something from me, we can tag team.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yep, Scott, go ahead, and we'll take questions when you're done.
Just going to take a minute to connect this here. I know Luke said he was going to help get this thing put up here. In the meantime, I'll just start with a brief introduction. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Wanted to thank you all for this opportunity for the Department of Roads to present this budget that's before you. For those that don't know, my name is Scott Wanagat. I'm the County Highway Engineer overseeing the engineering department, and I am standing in for our Director, Santo, who is out this week. So while the Macomb County Department of Roads is but one small facet of the many great departments that serve Macomb County, we may just be the most visible. Residents and motorists just passing through all use the roads to get where they need to go. So of the 1,700 miles of county jurisdiction roads, our presence can be felt year-round, from pothole filling to ditch maintenance to snow plowing, signal maintenance, to road and bridge rehabilitation and reconstruction. Everybody's familiar with the orange barrels. They're seeing traffic delays, and we always say there's two seasons, winter and construction. So regardless of the operation or the time of year, safety to the public and to our county workforce is paramount, and that begins with the condition of our roads. The Department of Roads uses a comprehensive approach of reconstruction, rehabilitation, and preventive maintenance to achieve this. And these are the core aspects of our asset management plan. So I'd like to start by summarizing the 2025 construction season before outlining what we have planned for the 2026 season. So I think you should all see on your screens, these are just a couple of visual aids threw this together because I didn't have a whole lot of time. But so for this most current season of 2025, we had over $72 million of programmed projects as far as construction costs go. Of that, a little over $33 million was secured through state and federal funds. That would be either through our Transportation Improvement Plan through the Federal Aid Committee, or sometimes grants directly from the state or other sources for matching to help offset various road and bridge projects. Of those program costs, the total value of the 2025 projects bid by contractors for the season was a little over $65 million. So these bid prices reflect an overall over $7 million in savings from the estimated costs. And a lot of this is a result of creative project packaging to gain some economies of scale in completing the programmed work. The overall total number of projects for the entire season between bridge, road rehabilitation, pavement preservation, crack sealing totaled 80. So that included all of those things, as well as locations where we were participants with non-motorized work for TAP grant transportation alternative projects as well. Chart here to kind of reflect road projects account for the largest portion of the construction costs at just shy of 44 million for the season. Crack sealing, while it was probably the smallest investment, affected the largest number of locations and miles of preventive maintenance work. So this type of treatment goes a long way in ensuring good and fair roads, pavements remain in that category longer. Projects by work type. The majority of our projects resulted from the annual programs that MCDR puts out each and every year, such as the subdivision reconstruction and preservation programs and our asphalt and concrete preservation programs. These are 100% county funded, or they're done as a match with the communities. There are no federal aid used in those particular programs. So you can see that the ones that the county spends the majority of our dollars on, we're able to affect the greatest change as far as number of locations that we're able to hit and improve from year to year. As far as miles of road improved this year, the Department of Roads takes a comprehensive approach at maintaining them through reconstruction, rehabilitation, and preventive maintenance. And all three of these are necessary, not only to address worse condition roads, but to, as I mentioned previously, to keep those roads and those bridge assets in good and fair condition and from falling back into poor condition. So the graphic you see there is just a representation of the work that was done this year, centerline miles of just straight from point A to point B for the road versus the number of lane miles that may have been affected. You know, we have a vast differential between rural roads that are just 2-lane roads versus more urbanized 5-lane roads. Our current season progress, as of today, construction is just over 80% complete, with all of our projects scheduled to be completed before the end of this season. And just a couple of totals as far as the number of centerline miles and lane miles that were improved as a result of the work done this year. And if you'll bear with me, I will just switch over to the last one, which is 2026. All right. So again, this is the same format as what you just saw, but program for 2026, we have just shy of $90 million. So this larger increase includes what we're planning for as far as the Romeo Plank expansion goes. That could teeter between 26 and 27, so it's reflected in the 26 amounts that you see here. Those state and federal funds account for approximately $47 million in funding. Again, the breakdown by work type. Road projects, again, account for the largest portion of those construction costs. As Melissa had mentioned, MCDR has bolstered some of our existing annual programs, including the asphalt and concrete preservation programs, as well as our subdivision reconstruct and preservation programs, which we've seen to be very successful in most recent years here. Breakdown of number of projects by work type. Similar to this current season, our mix of fixes is being implemented once again. The 2026 asphalt, concrete, and crack seal pavement preservation program locations. These are currently projections as we're still finalizing those actual locations. So it may vary up or down a little bit, but this is pretty close to what we'll end up seeing with the budget that we have for this year. And the same is true of the miles of road improved. The annual preservation programs add a number of centerline and lane miles of rehabilitation, preventive maintenance to the construction season each year. And so this that program, the pavement preservation, has grown over the past several years from just a small filler type of work that we kind of would just mix in between our federal aid projects to a more robust and essential program at maintaining our assets. And again, a projection of the miles we're focusing on improving or aiming towards improving. And in the end, what does this all amount to? All the work that we're looking to do, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's the condition of the roads. So the focus is to try, and everyone may or may not be familiar with the PASER ratings. That's kind of the statewide grade that is used to determine condition of roads in a community. It's done on a good, fair, poor scale of 1 to 10. These are some information as far as over the last couple of years where we've been as far as our good and fair categories have gone. You can see that there is a trend that is going in the right direction as far as, you know, increasing the good roads and maintaining more in the fair category, while at the same time trying to reduce the poor. You'll notice that there may be some uptick in the poor, but that's because this is both federal aid roads as well as non-federal aid roads. And up until recently, there's been a large number of non-federal aid roads that have been rated because a lot of those are subdivisions in townships. And that was one of the big focuses of this new legislation that passed, was that many of those things were not being reported, so the true reflection of the condition of those roads was not seen in a lot of the smaller local roads and conditions. So, and then this is just a comparable representation showing the lane miles as well. And so it's the same information as above, but it reflects the urban nature of many of our communities in the county and how much more significantly wider roads impact the condition of our whole network. So again, these include both federal aid and non-federal aid roads. And that ultimate goal is to preserve all of those and get more of them in the good and fair category and reduce the number in the poor category. So we are trending in that direction as it is. And with any luck, with this new funding, we'll be able to hit that target a lot sooner. So with that, I think that was all I had. Yep, want to thank you for your time and would welcome any questions that you guys might have at this point.
Melissa, Scott, thank you both. We do have some questions. We'll start with Commissioner Lucido.
Thank you. So this is more about the budget pages, which both of you guys might be able to answer this. So on the budget page, D42, under road construction and maintenance, last year it looks like you spent about 177,000 or 177 million.
Yes,
And this year you're going to spend 108 million.
yes, and that's an excellent question, but there's a couple reasons for the reduction. The main reason is that because last year's included the carry forward from 2024, and most of our carry forward is due to road construction. Our fiscal year end was September, so we had a lot of road projects that were budgeted in 24 that I budgeted into 25. I did not do that this year.
Oh, yeah, because I'm just looking like 23 was 158, 24 was 120 million.
Right,
And this
right.
year you're only projecting 108. And so I was just a little confused that you're spending less on maintenance and road construction, but yet you need 8 more people to do these jobs. So that's why I was kind
Oh,
of confused
okay.
on like, if you have less, if you're
Right.
spending less, you would think you would need less people to do the jobs. So that's why I was
Right,
confused
and-
on why wouldn't we not be putting more money into that instead of hiring more people?
Right, well, first of all, like that 21 million, that negative, that was really the carry forward, so that was what was a part of the 24, and included in 24 was a piece of 23, so that was always at presentation, I don't wanna say it was
Yes.
overstated.
No, I understand what you're saying,
but
like
it-
the
but it
carryover, because
had-
you have a project
yeah.
started, the funds don't come out until the next fiscal year.
And I'm gonna have Scott confirm this, but we also are pretty much completed with Mound Road. And so that was pretty much a 3-year project that was over $200 million total
Right.
expenditures. So, so that definitely was a big change. And then also when we did Mound Road, that the inspectors that did those, we contracted that.
They were consulted.
They were
yes.
consultants. I look at them because I was kind of just coming in at the tail end of that. But, so we weren't using our own forces. And then I would also say, again, leaning on Scott's expertise here, but, you know, some of these programs, though, us putting more money into subdivision preservation programs and into the PPP work, although they're smaller dollar amounts, they're still separate locations that require more inspectors. I guess maybe I don't want to step out of my lane.
Yeah, we're in many respects, like I said, with the preservation programs, by bolstering those, we're adding many more locations overall. And just the physical nature of needing the people to be able to cover those is one of the largest challenges that we face as far as the staffing goes.
Okay. Then my other question is also is that when you brought up Mountain Road, I don't get over there very much, to be honest, but 10 Mile to 8 Mile, has that project been completed yet?
So the 10 mile to 8 mile section is one that we are focusing on applying for another large federal grant. We've submitted an application twice and received feedback on it. So we're waiting for the next, especially at the federal side. There's been a lot of turnover and everything going on there as far as the new administration change. So we're waiting for the next notice of funding opportunity to come out before that gets submitted again. Based on the feedback that we've received and the modifications we've made to the application, we're very optimistic about it. The first one was awarded under the Trump administration, so we have a pretty good feeling about the second one. But that is the focus, is to apply for, because it is such a large dollar project that we need the federal dollars to help offset that cost.
Okay. And the next one I have is, I know that I was able to work with my state senator to secure him some funds for 10 Mile Road, which borders East Point and Roseville. And I was wondering when you guys were planning on doing that project between, I believe it's Hayes and Phlox, I believe is what it's between. And because I noticed, like, I'm looking at your roads that you're doing, and most of them happen to be north of 16 Mile. None are on the the bottom half of the county, with the exception of a Little Mac Avenue intersection, which I'm familiar with that intersection, and that intersection is not nearly as bad as the stretch of 10 Mile that I'm referring to, which is way, way worse.
So with the most current federal aid cycle through our federal aid committee that just happened, that's from 2026 to 2029, that we were able to use those dollars that were secured at the state level to help offset and use as match for aiding in the federal aid application. So the combination of those two is going to go towards a project that right now is currently programmed for 2028. And speaking with the city, we're looking at the possibilities of advancing it to 2027 at the earliest. And that would include that section from, I believe it's Hayes all the way down to Kelly. So it would include the reconstruction of the Hayes to Phlox, and then a rehabilitation from that point down towards Kelly Road.
Okay.
So again, it's looking at an opportunity to kind of use some creative packaging to gain some economies of scale, having to disrupt the public more infrequently by being out there once as opposed to 2 or 3 times to get these different segments of road.
All right. No, I appreciate that. I get complaints constantly about that area because it's dangerous to drive on. It's very dangerous.
Yep, understood.
So that's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Howard.
Thanks, Chair. I think to say that the Mountain project is almost complete is, and I think words matter. I don't think you meant anything intentional, so I'll preference that. But it's disrespectful to everybody that lives south of 10 Mile. I just spent $1,000 on tires 3 weeks ago because of the condition of Mountain Road. This is the second set of tires I've replaced on my truck, third set of tires that I've fourth set of tires since I've lived there. The average Michigander spends, in Metro Detroit, spends $2,544 on car maintenance because of the condition of our roads. And that section of Macomb County is one of the most financial needy areas in the county. 18% of that community does not know where their next meal is coming from. But they have to get to work, they have to get to doctor's appointments. And statistically, 70% of Michiganders can't withstand an unexpected $500 expense without falling in financial despair. Looking at the PASER rating that you brought up, 88% of the roads in my county district are rated fair or poor, but they're not on your list of projects. This is something that it's always been very frustrating living on the south end of Warren. We're dealing with the same issues with our city, living on the south end of the county, as Commissioner Lucido just pointed out. To hear that you have a $120 million fund balance, potentially another $30 million for coming from the state, and then being told we don't have any money to take care of Mountain Road, we don't have any money to take care of DeQuinder. When I first got elected, I think in February, I was asked to sign on to a letter to request funding for DeQuinder project. And my first comment is, why is this project starting at north of 696? And the response I got, well, south of 696 is worse and worse condition. How do I justify to the people that live in my district that their tax dollars are going to the north of 16 Mile, and that because our roads are the worst roads in the county, that I'm just supposed to tell them it'll get done eventually? When and I know this isn't just you, this is just reality. This is the number one, outside of food assistance and housing assistance, this is the number one call I get. And it's just very difficult to turn around and go back to my district every day, driving on Mountain Road, dodging potholes that you and I and him can lay in, because when it rains, we can go swimming in these potholes down there. It's just really difficult to now see we have a $120 million fund balance, but I have to spend thousands of dollars of tires, and so do my neighbors.
Can I add just one thing?
Sure.
First of all, I certainly didn't mean any disrespect.
I know you did. I know
I'm
you
newer
did. I know you did.
to Macomb County, so for me, when I say Mound Road was complete, that's my ignorance. I apologize. Within that 124 million, we do have a significant amount reserved for that Mound Road project for that. And Scott can tell you better for that next section that you've described. So that is in there with the anticipation of the federal funding. But I don't want to speak for Brian because he's not here, but he and I have had several conversations that we are prepared that if this next round of funding doesn't happen, that we will work with our partners in Warren and was it Warren?
This one's in Warren.
This one's in Warren, with our partners in Warren to move forward if we have to move forward. So please know that we're not only just waiting on that federal funding and that the project will only happen with federal funding. We're working, and especially too now with this additional funding, this definitely opens up opportunities. But I'll let Scott add to that.
Yeah, and that was always the intent, was Mountain Road was meant to be from start to finish. You know, it was split into two segments, mainly because of the parameters and what you could, you know, the bite at the apple that you were able to take for the federal grants. So the segment from 696 or from 10 Mile down to 8 Mile was always in the plan to go back and apply for those funds. And like Melissa said, we're looking to try and maximize as many opportunities as we can to utilize those federal funds so that it's not such a large burden to the local communities. If for some reason, like she said, it doesn't go the way that we hope, we understand that we can't wait forever and it needs to get done. So we're looking to pursue it on a more local means.
Yeah,
And the same is true of DeQuinder Road. That's another federal grant, different program that we're applying for. We are looking at doing some kind of temporary measures this year for a couple areas in DeQuinder just because of the condition of it. I can certainly go back and look and see if there's areas of Mound that make sense that we might be able to do something in the short term while we wait for a longer, more complete long-term fix.
Commissioner, if I may. Scott.
Commissioner, I just want to echo what Scott and Melissa have said here. We have never wavered from our commitment on Phase 2 for the entire Innovate Mountain initiative. Through the Biden administration, we worked not only with SEMCOG, all of our partners around the state of Michigan, under the Justice 40 parameters to make it a community-focused infrastructure project that would not only stabilize the neighborhoods, reconstruct the entire roadway, and be a part of the economic transformation that we're seeing with the project that planning helped with, not only at the Mound Road Industrial Complex, but also with the continued announcement that we got last week from Stellantis and the commitment at Warren Truck. We've worked with all partners to pivot, as Scott has highlighted, with the change. And I know these are a lot of bureaucratic words that don't help the individuals that are currently riding that roadway. We have never wavered from that commitment. The reason that our fund balance is so robust is because we have major asks at the federal level for generational projects that are priorities for the collective of individuals in this room. Not only they're directly located, whether it be in your district or as we need to do a multimodal bridge along Metropolitan Parkway, and all of the collective opportunities that we have to petition the federal government to get our tax dollars back here to Macomb County. This has always been a priority for us. We've discussed this candidly with all partners, including the city of Warren. We've scoured every single dollar amount. We've worked with the legislature at the state and the federal level to make this a priority on not only Mound Road, but even with DeQuinta Road. Our team more than recently than a few months ago has been meeting with Representative McFall, working with his district and MDOT to understand how we can also focus on DeQuinta Road, as we understand that that's a major jurisdictional project where it is a jurisdiction of Department of Roads, has implications not only in Oakland County, our friends in Madison Heights, and the city of Warren, and also MDOT with the carrying capacity and the necessity for us to normalize traffic and understand after the reconstruction of 696 how we can again use that as a neighborhood stabilization initiative. The other thing that it's tied into is the ability for us to also use our CDBG program. As we understand that there's been volatility of funding at that level, we're also trying to figure out creative ways to pitch multi-year allocations for community-based infrastructure initiatives that tie into our local roads. The same calls that you receive on your end, sir, is the same calls that we receive on our maintenance team and deploy patching crews, as we're working with Dwayne, who's been an absolute advocate in that area, and the Pothole Busters team. This is something that we're abundantly aware of, have the same concerns that you do, but it is critical that as we move these projects forward, that we're not only developing community-based solutions. That is why on November 6th, we've invited every single chief elected official around Macomb County to take part of a collaborative discussion, not only about the eligibility of the new neighborhood roads funds, but ways that we can layer in those dollars with creative matching protocol, using Melissa's expertise, the County Roads Association, and also SEMCOG on that end, and tie it into the PASER system. We hear you, sir, loud and clear. We understand the challenge that everyone in this room is up to, and I think more importantly, we will not waver in any way, shape, or form to complete Mound Road in its entirety.
I greatly appreciate that. I know you guys are working hard. At the end of the day, I have to speak for the residents of my district, and none of that changes the status of being told. I think Dr. King once said it best: slow progress is essentially no progress, and being told year after year that, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and then the question is when. Well, we don't know. I mean, there's no timeline projected. There's no, I mean, we don't know. So I'm going to have to go back to my district. They're going to say, I'm going to get a call after this meeting about how'd the roads budget go. And I'm going to have to tell them that this is how it went. Well, when's Mountain going to get done? I don't know, guys. That's what I'm going to have to do. I gladly will give them or the business line for them to call you.
You can call me at 586-469-7001. Have every single resident in that area, and whether it's Dwayne or the multitude of other residents that we've had the great pleasure of speaking to, I'm more than happy to discuss the collective effort that we've had, not only with the advocacy of this commission, the executive's office, and even the city of Warren.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Goyke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I just want to get informed a little bit. You talked about the salt and the extra. So we have the 5 salt domes to take care of. Number one, I got a couple questions. Number one is, how do you do you do the funding when you've got the M roads that are the trunk line roads that we're being contracted for coming out of the same pile as well as our county roads coming out of the same pile?
Absolutely, that's a great question. The Shelby Salt Dome, we do a calculation based on the salt usage there, and 19% of that salt does go onto M routes, onto our state trunk line. So we will be reimbursed for 19% of the cost of that project.
So now also, the other question is, because you have to maintain, that's part of the fund balance because of the fluctuation in years and how much snow we get, and so how much salt you're going to use. What is your baseline? What do you normally figure, 1,500 tons a year on the average? And then that way you got benchmarks to go. I know you keep the domes filled as much as possible, and you cannot control the price. That's why you said another $1 million. So, about how many tons is the normal?
Gosh, that is an excellent question that I wish I had my maintenance director here to answer for you. I'm not certain on what our total tons
Because that's a big
used are.
fluctuation.
Yeah, you'd be surprised that it's really not. Over in my experience, it has not fluctuated. It does seem like our winters are changing, but it seems as though the prices have been they have been going up, but not as much as perhaps some of the other things. The $1 million that I had referenced was an additional $1 million to build the Shelby Salt Dome. I think we had
Okay.
originally budgeted like 1.5, and it in the numbers that came back had almost doubled. But I know Brian has presented some of that to the board already. But yeah, I apologize that I
Okay.
don't know
That's
salt
fine.
usage
So we still got
numbers.
the Washington, the Clinton Township, the extra one on Mound Road,
Yes.
Shelby,
do know
and New Haven.
Yes.
They all have their own domes right there.
Yes.
So, and then I'd also like to say, I mean, it's a travesty. I don't want anybody to think any lesser of the people at the south end than they do the north end. Just remember, it's all of our roads. I have roads closed because the bridges are out. School buses, safety vehicles have to drive all the way around, ambulances. So it's not just one area of it's the whole county issue. And I just to put it out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Chair Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Scott, Melissa, good job for filling in for Brian, first of all. Second of all, the question I have is really in regards to the employee asks that you're looking for. So these are pretty, I would say, coveted positions based on what your challenges are in your department. It's engineers, right? I know you've been looking for civil, 1 and 2 engineers for probably 2 years maybe now?
We've got 2 in my department, engineering. I'm not 100% certain if this one is for, I know it's not for engineering, it might
No,
be for the
these
traffic
asks are for engineering aides 1, 2, and 3
Tho-
in this
Yeah,
budget cycle.
those are our field staff for inspection out in the field.
Okay. Are these going to be as difficult to recruit individuals as you've had with the other types of positions that you've been trying to fill in the department?
Generally not. A lot of times what ends up happening is when we introduce another position, especially if it's an EA2 or 3, a lot of times there's a promotion from within. We have current staff that meet the requirements and are able to fill those positions, and then we subsequently will post and fill the engineer aide 1 positions, which are generally entry levels.
Okay. Is the biggest need right now in the department as far as staffing goes, is it for your civil engineers?
Not for the engineers, it's for the field staff.
For the field
And this is mostly, these asks are to sort of get our field staff back to a position where we should have been all along, really, because for many years through we've had a lot of employees that have retired, and we've just continued to kind of roll along with who we had, but we're losing a lot of that inherent knowledge with those, and with the increase of projects, the increase of programs, and then bolstering with the number of funds that are going towards them, we just physically need more bodies in order to cover the vast amount of locations that we're doing from year to year.
So how long does it typically take, like, if you're an engineer aide 1, to get up to like a 2 or a 3? Is there a timeline for that?
So there's a minimum of a 2-year time frame before you advance to the 2 level, and then from there it's 3 years before you can go to the 3 level.
Are those like certified positions? Do they have to go to the state to get certified? Like, how does that work?
There's certain certifications for testing requirements when you do state federal jobs that are required, and we do send them to get those certifications. They all receive that at that engineer 1 level. And it's basically just through time and experience before they're really capable of fulfilling those other positions as a 2 or a 3.
So do we then support those those employees to get the training so they can get to the next levels and mentor them up?
Yes, yeah, this will in effect allow us to have an engineer aid 2 along with an engineer aid 3 on just about every project. That will allow us to kind of do a lot of that training, the succession training, so that they're learning the next role above them, so to speak. To learn those things, the certifications we include, it's a rolling thing where once you get certified, it's up for recert every 3 to 5 years for those testing requirements. So we definitely provide all of the necessary certifications, safety training, and equipment that they need to continue to advance in those areas.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Some of the new people you said are for the field.
Yes,
Does the county supply vehicles for them to run around in?
yes.
Do you have the vehicles today?
I believe they are programmed in the
They are
budget as well.
programmed in the equipment budget.
So they're in the
The
proposed
additional,
budget?
yes, yes.
Okay. How about, do they need desks? I don't know, maybe they're out in the field all the time?
Generally not. A lot of them work primarily from their vehicle. A lot of them will kind of, station at our lab in New Haven, which, is where we have the areas where they store any of the field equipment that they might need. But no, the need for actual desks is not necessarily a requirement.
I would imagine there's a lot more, maybe the field people today are taking photos of things and maybe little videos of different things to document things.
Yeah, we certainly will take certain photo and video documentations along the way.
What kind of management system do you have to manage all these so they don't, I mean, if we take the time to take a photo, we need to be able to quickly go and retrieve that photo.
Yeah, within our own network, we have a network drive that is allocated. There's a folder for each and every project that we do. And within that folder system, there's, areas for storing administrative documents, change orders, daily work reports, photos and videos, material tickets. All of those things that are associated with a project are all organized and allocated in that fashion. So there's a formal web-based version that's used for the state federal jobs. And then we have our own internal that we use for everything else that we use internally, whether it's local or just design file related. Because we have engineers that go out that will take pictures prior to going out and starting a project to get a lay of the land. And all that information is able to be stored there.
I'm glad to hear you have some structure and a place to put everything. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. On the second round, Commissioner Howard.
Hey, guys. Quick question. Can you just explain your capital outlay request in the budget for the 7.56 million?
Sure, the capital projects, you were given, and like I had mentioned, I'm sorry, you probably can't hear me. Here it is. So the capital, trying to see here, on here, so on your capital improvement plan, we had 1.476 budgeted, and the main item being the Shelby Salt Dome, which was really just an addition to the budget that we had already presented for 2025 because of the pricing. The rest of that, the $5.8 million, is for our road equipment, which includes our tandems. Well, actually, most of our tandems are coming in, but there's two pieces. When we get a tandem, we pay for the tandem itself, and then that's about 200,000, and the second 200,000 is for the upfitting.
Yep.
So we're getting the tandems in this year. Most of the upfittings are happening in 26. Gosh, I wish I knew the number of them, but I think there was an additional 5
Yep.
vehicles in Scott's budget just for those new employees. So it's $5.8 million in road equipment and the 1.476. Is that enough information?
Yeah, just, so the 1.46 for the Shelby, that's also in the capital outlay plan?
No, there's 1 million in the capital improvement plan for 1
Okay.
million. The total is 1.476, but there's some other smaller fixes that we need to do around our locations.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
I apologize.
Thank you. No, 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 I'm just not familiar with the area, so thank you for
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is that good?
Yes, yes, yes. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Grote.
Hello, hi Scott. That $30 million from the state, just to make clear, this is for every year we're going to be receiving?
Yes, that's, it's
Just-
legislative.
yeah.
It's legislatively protected. So it is written into the law, and through that road fund, that's the way that it's going to be coming to us.
But actually, the forecast that we have currently, Commissioner Grott, is that 30 million for 2026. And since the gas tax portion of it really is only 2/3 of the year, the estimated revenue increase for 2027 is 45 million. And then that should probably maybe stay a little more stable.
So for next 5 years, how are you going to be determining the projects for Macomb County?
Commissioner, I very much appreciate the question. As I alluded to earlier, in order to be on the front end of this and ensure that we're hearing all voices in the community, we've invited every chief elected official in Macomb County to a community roads forum that the executive's office is hosting on November the 6th. We not only are going to be scaling in some of the criteria and the eligibility requirements that Melissa alluded to that MDOT is still submitting out to us, but the bigger thing that we want to do is illustrate to all of the communities the capacity of the impact that we've had, not only with our preservation projects, the work that we've been doing in neighborhoods, and some of the creative elements that we've been doing specifically with our matching programs. We hear not only the priorities that are up in your district in Shana Road, we understand,
Yes,
Commissioner Howard, how undoubtedly we want to complete Phase 2 of Innovate Mound. We also know that there are a number of safety initiatives that, whether it's the 26 Mile Road and Hayes intersection, whether it's some street lighting and safety elements that Sterling Heights wants to go, we understand all of the needs that have been petitioned to us, that whether it's looking at the existing funding that we have and how that fits into every grant pool of money. We want to hear from the locals. And the most important thing about this is that undoubtedly it will be their priorities that dictate this process. As everyone in this room is well aware, we serve 27 communities and 880,000 residents. And I think what we're really looking to do is not only equitably deploy these projects, but know that we even have roadways like Joy Boulevard that are absolutely impassable. We know that Moravian Road is a local priority, and Clinton Township is the largest township in the state of Michigan. These are things that we are incredibly in tune to and discuss with local elected officials, their planning engineers, and all of their local DPW staff to understand how we not only are expending every single dollar to its most positive impact, but are doing so in a way that lifts all of the priorities from all of our communities. So we will not only report back to the conversations that we have on November the 6th, but be able to share out all the information as far as some of the recommendations that we have on the successes of our pavement preservation program and some of the safety initiatives we've done on that end.
Thank you. And one more question. The program for ditch cleaning, I know that's a small portion. We allocated $300,000 last year. Please keep me updated what's going on with that. I know it's on the agenda for next week.
All the ditches.
What's the need?
Yeah, all the ditches have not only been submitted for consideration for this board next week, but we've also been deploying more enhanced triage through our maintenance team. Whether it was the 2.5 hours that myself and Commissioner Goike had in Richmond Township earlier this year, or the work that we're doing over in Chesterfield Township with some of the flood mitigation efforts, this is a major, major initiative for us. I think we've had a tremendous amount of impact, and now as we're looking to deploy that final solution with this mainline ditching, I will tell you, normalizing this as far as assuring the cost share for the locals was a big administrative lift for us. I think we have something in place that will not only be a tremendous value add, but mirrors the tremendous successes too that Public Works Commissioner Miller and her team have done with the countywide drain program. So I think we're going to be able to spend the majority of those funds. What we're going to be able to do here, as we not only have this for consideration for the board, we're also going to look where we can even, I guess, operationalize this more efficiently. We have some cost projections in there as far as doing main lines. The one variable that I will tell you that's been a stressor for us, and I know Scott's going to probably throw a chair at me when I say this, is residential culverts are the happiest thing that we get to deal with. There's a lot of legalese and permitting that goes with those. And while, yes, you're right, we issue permits for residential culverts. Those are the responsibility of the homeowner, and the enforcement of those deficiencies has been problematic at times, but I think we've helped neutralize some of that too.
This is a small program, doesn't impact all of us. Probably Warren has less issues that Commissioner Goike and I are dealing with, and there is a big need for it.
Commissioner, I can't tell you enough the goodwill that we get from our local road crews every time we clear out a ditch. And how labor intensive it is, and the amount of time, effort, and energy that, whether it's from a safety staging and then ultimately the specialty equipment we need for that stuff. This is a major, major priority for a number of our rural areas, a number of our townships, and then also ensuring that we adequately have ditches that are on our roads that key into all of the drain districts that we have in the county too. This is a major priority for us, and we very much appreciate the Board of Commissioners' investment last year
Thank
in
you.
this.
I hope you guys continue that program for a while until we have eventually no people complaining, but there is a big need, especially in my community.
Thank you,
So,
Commissioner.
and that's the match program, so community have to come up with the money, and they willing to pay. So, thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Boino.
Thank you, and thank you. I think my question, want to focus on, is there a specific criteria that Department of Roads uses to make a determination on which projects you prioritize? Because, I mean, I did hear, JP, regarding the November 6th and, listening to the communities, but of course, each community that comes out, they're going to, think, of course, that their roads are the worst than the next community, of course. So do we have some type of written criteria that we use? Especially, I guess, when we do talk about Mound Road and we have the Phase 1 and Phase 2. And I guess I do question why Phase 1 was north, where that portion of Mound wasn't as in severe distress as the, what's now been slated for Phase 2, and which is still not done. So what criteria are we using to make decisions on which roads get fixed first?
Thank you. That's a great question. And maybe a little bit complex too, but I would say that it really kind of boils down to is where is the funding source coming from? For something like the Mound Road, it was a federal grant and it was an application process. So you're competing for dollars in that, and there's criteria that the feds would set up on that based on, the type of community, the business impacts, the number of jobs that may be affected. Those are all things that would raise like a score during an application process for something like that. And I believe at the time when Mound Road from 696 to M59 was submitted, that ticked all the boxes that were in that criteria for that particular grant, which is why that one was pursued. As far as other projects that we have our federal aid projects that we receive through the Federal Aid Committee. That is also an application-based process, and a lot of it starts from, we hold what we call our core meetings, our community outreach and road education meetings with the communities. And we sort of try and attack these things by, a funnel approach, if you will, using the federal aid dollars to focus on our corridors of significance, the major corridors that affect the larger, they're serving multiple communities, higher volumes of traffic. Those are the ones that a lot of the communities will try and apply for to get that 80% federal funding and only having to match 20% with us for the local match. And those would be like the first bite. The second would be is what we offer at the county is like a 50-50 or a 60-40, but that's all just local funds. So again, the best bang for the buck is to try and get the federal dollars to pay for the majority of the cost. The next best option is to do those partnered projects that are maybe more paramount to a community. That's why we have those core meetings to discuss on an annual basis. What are your community priorities? What's the biggest issue that you guys have as far as roads go? We absolutely look at those PASER ratings, the condition ratings to help guide and inform those decisions. And then what we've now tried to do with those preservation programs that we do at 100% county cost is sort of fill in the gaps, if you will. the goal is to try and attack these corridors and not just do piecemeal segments across the county, but try and address an entire stretch, might be multiple miles at a time, so that that particular asset is now, once it's been rehabilitated, we can go in and logically maintain it with a crack seal treatment over a 5-mile stretch. That way you're keeping that asset in a fair condition, a longer stretch of mileage in a good condition for a longer period of time. But that's pretty much the mechanism that's used is, like I mentioned, those different funding sources. They may have different criteria as far as what applies for a federal grant through the Federal Aid Committee. We have a process where there's points that are scored based on, again, traffic volumes, condition of the road. There's a whole host of things that go into that, so.
Another question would be regarding discussing with the communities, like any type of coordination. So in my neighborhood right now, for example, 14 Mile Road is under construction and 13 Mile started at the exact same time. And while the community is happy that the roads are being worked on, they wonder why there isn't any type of like planning on why they're done at the exact same time.
So, yeah, we do our best effort to try and coordinate those as best we can through our core program. We will usually garner from, cities that are able to do their own projects with their own funds, what they have coming up in the future years so that we can try and, map out geographically what we have planned and staging when a certain project goes so that we're not gridlocking people to the best of our abilities. So there's only so much that you can do when it comes to that, though, because in Michigan, we obviously have a very short window of time that we're able to work. A lot of the funds that are related to these projects are sort of, you have to use it within a certain time frame or it goes away. And unfortunately, in some cases, there's just no better way around it. The city might have something planned at the same time as we have, and there might be a conflicting, we make the best planning efforts to try and stage them that way, but there's always something that could push it back. There's a delay in material. There's a holdup in the federal review for something. A lot of times, one of the big questions that we get is, well, why are you working on this road before working on this other one? Sometimes those are related to like a permit or a utility project that we have just no control over. If a Comcast or a DTE is going in, doing work on their utilities, and they have to take a lane and it's already in a congested area because we have a project going concurrently a mile down the road, those are things that we can't plan for every contingency in that case.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Perna.
To tag on to Lisa's comments, there's a misconception of these local communities. I represent Clinton Township. Neighbors, businesses saying, why can't our roads get fixed? And the residents and the businesses really don't understand, and maybe this is where the road commission can help, is that local neighborhoods, they can do it by petition if they get 50%. Correct? Then the township, they match 50% of that. And then there's taxes on those residents that made a commitment to sign that affidavit to have their road fixed. Is this normal for all of the townships and the cities that they're not communicating to their residents that why isn't the road fixed? Well, it's the county. It's the county's problem. It's not the county's problem. It's finance, and a lot of these municipalities, especially the smaller ones, don't have the funds. Is there any program that the county can direct those smaller cities and townships to get their funds so the neighbors maybe can complete their road or roads?
So that's one of the key components of the core program when we meet with communities annually is to educate them on the most recent things going on with road funding, with the options that they have available. What you were speaking of was what's known as an SAD, a Special Assessment District. Much of the funding up until this most recent legislation comes through Act 51. The way that law is written, Act 51 requires that if we're going into a local road, we need to get at least a 50% match in order to do rehabilitation or reconstruction efforts in there. That's why we established the subdivision reconstruction program that we use. Many of the townships will use a special assessment district to levy those costs on those residents because it's a direct benefit just for those particular people on a given street. That is one program. I believe Clinton Township said that they're all looking to try and help offset that with some of their own general fund to try and lessen that for those residents that apply for it. But that's a program that we've been offering from year to year. One of the newer ones that we've also started last year was kind of the maiden voyage of it was our subdivision preservation program. And that's a lesser match, but it's also a lesser fix. So it's more of a drivable condition improvement. It's not a full, complete reconstruct with drainage and everything, but it will definitely smooth out the driving surface. It's more minimally invasive and it costs a lot less. And that is offered at a 75-25, where the townships are only required to pay 25% for the match on that. And whether they choose to do that through a special assessment or pay out of a general fund or some other means, that is generally something that's left up to the townships.
When does the road commission determine that it's not an emergency, but it's critical that a particular road gets fixed immediately because of a hazard? Like Commissioner Goyke said, you got bridges out in the north end, ambulance, fire department, police department, sheriff's department, can't get through, and it takes them an extra 5 or 10 minutes to get to a location if there's an emergency. Does the road commission evaluate those types of needs immediately instead of putting it off to think, well, we'll do it in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years from now, or we're waiting for funding? An emergency temporary fix, isn't that available in some areas where the roads are very difficult to pass through?
There's been some instances where we might have a failed culvert where we have to plate it in order to get the road reopened. But it again boils down to safety. If there's not a safe means of getting someone through, as far as trying to prioritize it, it really does boil down to funding. I don't know that we have like an emergency fund per se that's able to do that, because a lot of times there's permitting processes. You can't just go out and just say, you know what, I'm going to just replace this bridge now because it needs to get replaced now. We had that issue happen a couple of years ago on 32 Mile Road up near Ray Township, where we had to close the bridge because of the condition. And obviously it was a huge thoroughfare, but we ended up having to wait over a year to replace it just because of how long it took we had to then go and design it, get the permitting for Eagle to cross the river that was there, any right-of-way issues that might be need to be addressed. So there's a lot of facets that are involved in that. You can't just flip a switch and get to them quite that quickly in many cases.
If a group of neighbors get together and say, we're gonna fix this hole, our own, we can't wait for the township or the county, can they send an invoice to the road commission?
No, we just do it.
It's up north.
Commissioner, we hear you loud and clear with regards to the severity of deploying immediate fixes that if there is any deficiency in the roadway. Our maintenance team is out there on a daily basis monitoring the thousands of calls that we get every single day. And anytime there is a deficiency in the roadway that needs to be communicated back to our engineering team, that entire process is seamless. I think the other thing that you were alluding to is the prioritization of projects and how we're expediting all of those wonderful bureaucratic processes we need to go through to fix a road. Our one-of-its-kind community outreach and road education program is on the front end of that. So specifically in Clinton Township, we continually meet with Mary, Scott, the entire road engineering and design team. They are integrally involved with Scott in our subdivision, not only on the preservation side, but on the road reconstruct side, where we're working with the entire team over at Clinton Township to not only scope projects for eligibility, but then petition them to the match programs that we currently have. The other thing that we did with Scott Scott's creativity is the preservation side, where we understood that there was a triage that we could deploy, where there was one road in particular in Clinton Township, where it was an exorbitant amount of cost share that would just been unattainable for all of the members. We were able to put together a preservation fix, which not only stabilized the road, but gave us the ability to extend the carrying capacity of that roadway. We hear you loud and clear with regards to the ability to be creative and to expedite these processes. And whether it's the opportunity for us to come in and whether we need to deploy an asphalt crew or something like that, those are things that we always look to find the best solution for the best road at the best time. And then most importantly, always bring in the cost share component so there's a collective share on the impact to the, whether it's a subdivision or the local roads.
So if a neighborhood gets 50%, they need 50%, correct, to get a neighborhood fixed?
With the sub-reconstruct program as it's currently
So if they get
constituted.
50%, the township or local municipality can still turn them down because they don't have the funds to match.
Not necessarily. The way that program works is we will match 50% of that cost with a capped amount. If, the township, if they have a group of residents that has a, an acceptable SAD, then we put that in the program and we plan it for the next construction season. We have an application process that we go through where we solicit and accept those applications and receive them in the fall, make the determinations based on the available budget that we have for matching, and then proceed forward. Generally, up until this point, we've been able to fund just about every application that's come in because not every community is able to put together an SAD. Some residents are against it. They might not have the full 51% to support it. But the township does, the other 50%, whether that's totally from the residents or a mix between the residents and the township, that's up to how the township chooses to levy that special assessment. We just need, on our end, to do a reconstruct effort in there to have that 50%. If it's more of a preventive maintenance, like JP was mentioning, the overlays that we've done in a couple of these neighborhoods, that's more of a preventive maintenance treatment, and we can do it at a lesser cost.
And that match that the neighborhood would put up, that's put on their tax roll. That's not out of their pocket. Am I correct?
Typically, I believe that's how they levy that, yes.
So it's not out of pocket money immediately, but they're going to have taxes for the next 10 years.
Correct.
Increase.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. All right, seeing no more speakers. Melissa and Scott, thank you very much. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
We'll move on to page D23, which is the non-motorized trails page. JP, do you want to touch on anything on this page? Quickly, like
less that I
quicker
talk-
than your normal quick.
The better for everyone.
You said enough.
Two quick things. Exceptional year out on the trail. I want to thank the board for the previous investment, not only into our collective efforts along the Macomb Orchard Trail, also with the help of Commissioner Grott and the Macomb Orchard Trail Commission. I think not only the communication, the coordination, and prioritizing all the local trail champions has been an exceptional year on that front. All the credit goes to Brian, our Chief of Staff, Vince Viviano, Irvin over at Rhodes as we fielded the calls. I will tell you, apparently, if there's a tree within 5 feet of the trail, it dies every single day, and we don't know why. So we've been responding to all of the trees that have been falling down all across the trail. I think there's some root issues and some other issues on that end, but a great year out on the trail, another record year as far as users on that end, and also with the enhanced maintenance efforts. We cannot thank the board enough for their continued commitment and partnership in this.
Thanks, JP. Are there any questions from commissioners?
Yes.
Commissioner Grote.
Any update on the facility, any work?
Yes, the
they
pavement
ask
preservation stuff has been going great this year, Commissioners. You not only have been providing us with insight, the crack sealing's been good, but as Scott highlighted, one of the big things that we're looking at is an expansive pavement preservation opportunity. We've not only been able to target on the washout areas and ensure that all the structures are viable on that side, but I think the best thing that we've really done this year is stabilizing all of the maintenance elements on that side with promos, enhanced efforts, not only with regards to the trail comfort stations, but also with some of the painting and other things that we've done throughout the year. We've really upped our efforts with the increased eyes on there. The other thing that I think has been fantastic with the increase of users is we've really been able to scale back on some of the I guess for lack of a better term, vandalism that we've seen throughout the years. We have a lot more eyes out on the trail, which has been incredibly helpful on that end. And then the coordinated effort between our team in planning and at roads, currently working right now with a few philanthropic funders to leverage the investment that the commissioners put into the trail fund to see if we can do some creative elements with a trail maintenance program. We're waiting on some parameters of the grant side of what that would look like, and undoubtedly that will come before the Board of Commissioners for their advice and consent.
I just want to thank JP. He's always responding to my text messages, 8:30 in the morning. If we need, call the road department for a tree removal service or anything that is happening on the trail. So big thank you.
Thanks. I just need a hobby, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. I don't-
Orchard Trail Commission is trying their best, but and the road department is tremendous help. I encourage you guys, when the weather is nice, go on the trails, visit. You would be surprised how many visitors we get. Basically, we have like traffic going on. So we will be talking probably with the bikes, because a lot of people are using the electric bikes, which people are complaining, and I am not surprised. But I just want to thank you for all the help. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. JP, I see no other questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioners. Appreciate it.
Last but not least, Brian and team, Public Works. Come on up. Thank you for your patience. Brian, start when you're ready.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Candace was not able to attend today, so she sends her regards, but I'm here to present to you our budget, some of our accomplishments and projects. So with that, let me kick off first with the budget information. Our budget, a total $11.1 million. 60% of that is the general fund. 40% is wastewater districts, split up between the pump station and the mid. Revenues, we have $5.5 million worth of revenues that we bring in, and that rose 5.2%. Our personnel costs rose $364,000. That was primarily due to the contracts. We don't have any increase in staffing. It's the same as the adopted fiscal year 25 numbers. The county internal services, that increased almost $200,000, so that's 14%. We do not control that. If we back that out, we'd be under 4% as a total adjustment. We did lower our supplies and services budget. You'll notice that we do have $18,000 in there for a grant match that Vicki had mentioned about the LiDAR elevation maps, and that is our 1/3 share that we're sharing with roads as well as planning. We do have $40,000 in contracted services for our drain match, staffing assistance, and getting those projects completed. We do not have any other increases in any of our other expense accounts and have been very consistent in that spending, not increasing those over the last 10 years. So we have the boards in front of us. We completed a record 112 county drain program improvements in 112 county drains in every Macomb community, and that was a record. Oop. Yes, we do have, I want to give you a little examples of some of the drain work that we've been able to do with the county's 50/50 match program. Again, a local cost share with the local communities. That helps us maintain the 750 miles of drains that we have, open and enclosed, and this drain work helps to prevent flooding. And we work with the locals in terms of handling their priorities where they see the most need for in their community. So here's some couple examples up in Richmond, for example, a farming community, New Baltimore, Crapow Creek, Macomb Township, Middle Branch is technically a drain that we are in charge of. And by removing obstructions, it also helps prevent backups in smaller drains that outfall into the Middle Branch. We did a lot of work at Chesterfield this year, Crandall Drain. In Shelby Township, we did the Catholic Drain. I believe we also just completed the Harris Drain, which is on 24 Mile and Jewel. The Aaron Clinton, that's an enclosed drain. So we have open and enclosed. This was a bunch of construction debris that we found in that enclosed drain, concrete and other materials that we were able to remove. There's the before and the after. Another in Roseville, the Rohrbeck Sweeney drain. This was a drain where there was a sinkhole. We had corrugated metal pipe that had deteriorated. So you can see during we're installing new concrete pipe, and that was close to a sidewalk, so we prevented any hazards there. And as Harold knows, the 11.5 mile drain, we did some repairs there. It was a large storm event where we had some venting and damaged one of our structures, and also we found a sinkhole right along 94 there. So we were fortunate to be able to piggyback off of MDOT had traffic control already in place, so we were able to get the work done much quicker and cheaper. Other examples, photos of mucking out various drains, removing blockages in other communities throughout the entire county. As part of the match money, we also partner with the locals to remove large woody debris in the Clinton River, which can cause erosion to the banks and sediment, poor water quality. So here's some examples of 4 communities that we partnered with, and we removed hundreds of tons of large woody debris, and that's with the 50/50 program as well. A look at some of our current and recently completed projects. The department's been very busy. On the left, we have the wastewater, on the right, stormwater. In terms of wastewater, one of our big goals was reducing CSOs. And as Commissioner Lucido, who sits on the 8.5 mile board, will know, we've been spending a lot of time in that effort, and I'll get into that a little bit more. The Martin Retention Basin, which Commissioner Haw is on, we've invested $50 million. And the Mid, which Commissioner Van Sickle sits on, we've invested $122 million in a variety of projects. I'll get a little bit more into there. On the right side is the stormwater projects. There's $10 million. These are primarily all grant funded. Commissioner Romano is on the Sterling Relief Board. And in total, we've secured grants of almost 2/3 of the amount of money that we're spending. So $181.3 million. And of course, these are funds we're spending out of our drainage districts, not the general fund, but we're able to do it primarily 2/3 with grant funding. One very large accomplishment we're happy to report that Candace has successfully been able to achieve a 75% reduction in combined sewer overflows at Chappaqua. And she was able to do that through the canal project and the in-system storage project, and operating things differently, a higher wet well level. So we've invested $105 million of grant funds to reduce CSOs at Chappaqua. We've increased storage by $37 million, or over 120%. That has improved the water quality of Lake St. Clair. It's reduced flooding risk to those communities. And we are using that as an opportunity to encourage others to reduce their CSOs, including Oakland County. Oakland County's GWK discharges twice as often as we do. That was even before we had our 75% reduction. They discharge 7 to 10 times the volume of CSOs that Chappaqua does, and their E. coli levels, we did a study over the last 5 years, are 160 times the level of the E. coli from Chapatin that we treat. So more to that. Example again of no more sinkholes, as Commissioner Van Sickle knows, that we've lined now 3.5 miles of pipe underneath 15 Mile, and we've got more to go. We're working currently along 15 Mile from Garfield up to Groesbeck, and plans to take that even further to Gratiot. Those projects, at least the current projects that we're doing, are minimal traffic obstructions, because we're able to do this this plastic wrap, fiberglass wrap into a manhole, which we do not need then to put in a shaft, which is costly. Couple other current wastewater projects. Chapatin upgrades, we're spending $15 million on the electrical components, replacing the Chapatin gates, $5 million. The Jefferson Interceptor, that is, if you'll see on the red, we're adding an additional pipe along Jefferson, partnering with SEMSD, and using $20 million of county ARPA funds to put an additional pipe in there, which will reduce CSOs at our Martin, our other CSO RTB, by 50%. And then we're also investing $9 million at the Bonheur Pump Station with new screw pumps that have been around since the 70s. We've received many awards this year. First off, from the APWA, we're repeat winners for the 2004 and 2005 Projects of the Year for our sewer drone and our use of AI, and also the spiral wound lining that we did at 21 in Garfield Road that I had described earlier. We've also won ACEC and MACDC awards. That's the engineering and our Drain Association awards, and 3 NACO awards for the reduction in the CSOs, our digitization project that we got a grant for to digitize our records, as well as the drone. And finally, I want to, about that drone, I want to play an NBC News video. They came in, they heard about our drone and our use of artificial intelligence and our use of the GoFlow device in order to inspect drains, which was a good story, and I'll play it for you now.
This high-powered drone, not usually associated with sewer systems, is Macomb County, Michigan's answer to preventing scenes like this.
A grim prospect for residents threatened by this massive sinkhole.
Christmas Eve 2016, a sinkhole the size of a football field.
Started when an 11-foot wide sewer line located 45 feet below ground burst, spilling raw sewage under the neighborhood and triggering the sinkhole.
What was arguably the largest infrastructure disaster in Michigan history.
More than 20 homes evacuated, with at least 3 of those destroyed. Luckily, nobody was hurt. The county blaming human error, a mess that took 9 months and roughly $75 million taxpayer dollars to fix.
We are never going to have another sinkhole in Macomb County. We have done a number of things now to shore up our underground infrastructure.
Launching new tools like this, essentially a poop drone.
So this is our drone. This is from Flybotics. It's the ACOX.
Looks fancy.
It is fancy. The first thing you see is the protective cage around it. Very important.
The drone is sent into the sewer systems, recording 4K video with lights as powerful as those at a stadium.
There's sensors all the way around the drone.
Sensors detecting hazardous gases, sometimes found in pipes that are usually inspected by humans.
Carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, you name it, you can run into it down there. So it's putting people in a potentially dangerous environment.
But it's also about efficiency. This team saying it can inspect almost 1,000 feet of underground pipes in just one flight.
So what we're going to do is just do a quick little inspection of the piping that's within this gallery here.
What things are you looking for?
So we're looking for Are there tree roots in the pipe? Is the pipe cracked anywhere? Is there water dripping into the pipe?
Oh,
Don't get too close to the
I
hole.
will not. And the flying drone has a floating cousin in the GoFlow, a buoy created and 3D printed by this team.
Lower it down. It's getting footage right now. We got splashdown.
After a flight or a float, the team uploads the footage to a system called Sewer AI that detects and alerts engineers to anomalies within the infrastructure.
What used to take us months to get an answer, we now are able to get something in about 24 hours. And we have already saved literally millions of dollars with this new technology.
In 2023, Macomb County spent nearly $1 million on contractor inspections. Next year, using the new tech, they estimate inspections will cost just $46,000.
It's out of sight, out of mind. As most people see it, you have to go in and look at it because if you don't, the results are catastrophic.
Hoping to prevent catastrophe right under our feet. Shaquille Brewster, NBC News.
So that was a brief news article about what happened in 2016, the sinkhole in Fraser that happened before we got here. But since then, we've done a lot to now not only inspect the sewers, but also to line them and have odor corrosion facilities to prevent the H2S gas from eroding the inside of the concrete pipe. So a good news story about our technology. That GoFlow that they dropped was designed in-house by our staff. So saving money, earning awards, and inspecting the sewers. So with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Brian. Nice job. Nice job to the team as well. We do have a couple of questions. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Brian. When we eliminated 75% of the CSOs, that meant we sent more volume down to Detroit to be processed. Do they charge by the gallon or whatever? And who actually pays that?
The local communities pay GLWA. So St. Clair Shores, East Point, they pay GLWA to treat whatever flows get sent to them.
It's allocated by
Flow.
flow.
Yeah, it gets
Okay.
adjusted every like 3 to 5 years. They do a study.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Howard.
Thank you for the work that you do. I was shocked by the no increase over the last 10 years. It's very unique out of all the other departments. How is it that you guys are able to offset the no increase? I'm just out of curiosity.
Using technology, we do things, we don't mail things out. We've got the website, that's one example. We've got the 24-hour day, 7-day a week permit online application portal where people are applying for permits and making payments to us, so we're not mailing things out. Not printing as much stuff out because it's all social media and videos and things like that. Our video department is just an iPhone that Norb holds up to videotape Candace. Vehicles, we try to maintain our fleet. We've farmed some things out. We're now using roads. They were able to now take over our fleet and do the maintenance. So just not spending a whole lot of money, doing things online courses for training, things like that.
You mentioned permits. I assume there's a fee or cost associated to those permits. Have you adjusted those fees at all over the years?
We annually adjust them inflation.
Every year?
Yes.
Oh. That's good to hear. I think bringing in more revenue is important. One other question. The rain barrel thing that you guys have done before, are you guys still doing those partnerships?
We haven't done one recently. We did one with Roseville, Mount Clemens, and East Point. That's right.
Is that still 50-50?
We would be willing to partner if a community came to us. I know some have asked, maybe Shelby was asking, but no, we'd be willing to do that if the community is willing to match it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I learned about rain barrels really through, you learn about them over the years, but really understanding, like hearing Candace talk about them, it made me want to go get one. I haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah.
But and then just the community outreach and the education for the commissioner school that's online. Greg Childs, before he switched over to the prosecutor's office, came down and helped several of us begin that process of going through it. And it was really it really taught me what what does the public works actually do.
Yeah.
It was very beneficial. So thank you.
She's very good at letting the residents know how we're spending their money. So all of our videos are on YouTube. They're on our website, so everyone can watch, you know, and really gives a good chronology over the years of all the stuff that we've done.
Yeah, thank you. I think some other folks might need to look at fees and stuff, but that's just me. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Goike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Brian. What, being, you still are representative for CLWA?
Correct.
Good
For the-
deal.
Yep.
All right, also, now with the CSOs, approximately, because I think they got them going out two ways. They got one going out to south plus the Red Run Drain. Do you know how many gallons that they're actually dumping on us from Oakland County?
It averages about 5 billion gallons of CSOs, and they've had some, it's about 2 million gallons of SSO. SSO is sanitary sewer overflow, where it's not even combined with rainwater. So 5 billion, so 7 to 10 times the amount that we're doing at CHAP.
Catastrophe that we've been taking their shit for over 30 years that I've been trying to stop it.
Would you say?
It is. I'm not lying. Just go walk down it sometime. Thank you very much. Thank you for everything that's done in your department.
Thanks.
Okay, this is live.
I'll let that one slide. Chair Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair.
I didn't lie.
Hey, Brian, just one quick question. You said no staff increases, but we're showing a 1 FTE increase in the budget. Is that?
Yeah,
a year, or what is that?
we're at the same level as what was adopted in 25. Mid-year finance looked like they reduced us 1.
Okay.
I think there was a misunderstanding. They were assuming that we're getting rid of that position. Someone left the organization, and we did a little bit of reorganization. But no, that position, the environmental specialist, is still needed. We did get rid of the environmental educator.
Okay.
So that was just finance doing that, and the staffing count, the budget, you know, the numbers are still in there, at least in the 25 budget as well.
Okay, so it's the exact same number as 25 as amended. At least it should
25 as adopted,
be as adopted?
correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Brian, I see no other questions or speakers. Thank you again for your patience and your
Thank you all.
time, everybody, for waiting us out. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioners, that is the final budget review.
For today.
We have one more, and it's not even going to be on my committee. So with that, we have a motion and support to receive and file. Commissioners, please vote.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you. Next is public participation. Anybody from the public wishing to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any issue they wish, come on up to the podium, give us your name, and you're off and running.
So I get to follow the poop drones.
It's hard.
It's a tough one. Okay, well, I wasn't planning to come and speak until 1 p.m. today, so forgive me. My name is Andy Eberly. I'm a concerned parent, and I'm going to start with a request, and then I'm going to provide more information. This is my request. This Board of Commissioners has oversight over schools and the health department in Macomb County. We are in a dispute with Armada schools regarding my children's enrollment. Advocacy groups are engaged, attorneys are involved. I believe this board here received an email yesterday from one of the advocacy groups that we're working with about us. And if you haven't yet heard from Jamie Green's office today, you may very soon. My 2 sons are due to be removed tomorrow from Armada schools due to a paperwork dispute. We've been communicating with the school for a long time, trying to find a resolution, and it's just been shut down. So my request is this. that this board consider contacting the school to postpone my son's removal until this is resolved through our attorneys. This is affecting students across the state, this particular issue. So let me explain the issue now that you've heard my request. It's about a state law surrounding student enrollment paperwork versus a rule that conflicts with that law. There was never an explanation how to follow the rules that were instituted in 2015, and so it's left up to interpretation. We interpret the rules one way. My attorney interprets it the way that we do. We've even been in communication with the medical director at the St. Clair County Health Department. He spoke on our behalf at the school board meeting, asking to postpone until November 19th so that he can meet with the board of directors in that county to get clarification on how to follow these rules. The school and their attorneys are taking a different interpretation of the rules, and our sons are caught in the middle. So we're just asking that that be postponed until this gets figured out. I spoke at 3 different school board meetings. I've had a number of emails back and forth with the superintendent trying to resolve this. I presented evidence from an attorney's analysis, a memo from the St. Clair County Health Department medical director explaining our perspective and how the school must move forward, and it's fell on deaf ears. So if any of you would like to talk with us after the meeting, we can provide the information, provide more perspective on what that is. Or if anyone has some questions, I could answer that, but I recognize this is public comment, so I'll honor the time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're at 3 minutes right on the dot. Nice job. Anyone else from public participation?
Commissioner Kraft, Chairman, Sabatini, other commissioners, George Kale, 180 Grand Ave, Mount Clemens. I'm glad to see my taxpayer dollars going to such good causes. And in regard to the goal flow, JP, I would imagine, would probably understand that we need to get intellectual property rights on that. If that was designed in-house, printed off of a 3D printer, and we're getting national press, we've got a way to potentially monetize that device because it looks pretty unique and creative. Inventive, and JP, you should check into that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Glad that JP gets one more task to do today. Commissioners, any comments from commissioners? All right, seeing none, take a motion to adjourn. Motion from Commissioner Van Sickle, support from Commissioner Howard. Please vote.
No. It doesn't matter.
I just heard one sound over there, and so I just picked somebody.
Motion passes 10-0.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a happy Halloween.